I'm Hugh Loney, and I've always wanted to be an artist, and I've spent the past 64 years or thereabouts trying to be one, and I'm still trying to be one. And I've been learning from all the art that I've looked at in galleries and books over the years, and trying to find my own voice to sing my song with the art that means something to me. R.D. Lang mentioned that madness was a sane reaction to an insane world, and I think that that can be said for depression, addiction, anxiety as a sane reaction to an insane world. And for me, the thing that's kept me afloat was painting, and I did that from when I was about 4, painting the wee railway, wee plastic train that I got for a birthday present or a Christmas present, I don't know which, and a wee paint by number set. And I was sitting on the floor in the tenement, and I didn't know what to do with the paint by numbers, and this wee train came round. So I dipped the brush and I painted the black plastic train, and it lit a spark in me somehow, and I'm still trying to find or chase that spark. I don't know what that spark was, but it's helped me through depression, which I think I've had most of my life on and off. When I started school at 5, I developed a stutter or a stammer. I don't know which. There is a difference between a stutter and a stammer, but I don't know which is which. And I had it for the best part of 20 years, till I was an adult. My mother had mentioned in her diary that she had left when she died that I was a moody child. So I was quite observant on her part as a wee kid. So I was probably quite sensitive, and so you could say I've been depressed for a while, you could say, and it's never been picked up in those days, the 50s and 60s. But the stammer carried on right through till I got a job. So I was always introverted and stepping back from society and people, and you could argue that I was probably depressed even then. But I always did the art since I was 4 or 5, painting that wee train set. That started it, and then it was paint. Every Christmas or birthday I got paint by number kits, right? And then from there I got blank paper and pencils, and I could do my own drawings, and that's what I'm still doing 60 years later. And it's been an identity thing. Like, this is who I want to be. This, you know, when you go and find out about all the famous artists, and you think, wow, I want to do that. That's what I want to be. When you do your own art, there's a connection going on between you and your drawing or your painting or whatever it is. More so when I've been older, and I realise it's not about selling. For me, it's not about selling, it's about doing the work. That's it, just do the work. So you start off with a blank canvas, a blank piece of paper or whatever, and there's nothing on it, obviously. And then over a period of a couple of hours or a couple of days or a couple of weeks, there's something there. So where was that image before? Where did it come from? It came from everything, all the artwork that I've looked at. So everything that I've looked at art-wise, and just everything, the whole of my life, it would be that buses or trees and nature, whatever, it's all went in. And most of it is the subconscious, and I'm trying to bring it back out so that I can look at it, and then it can give me something back again to lift me to be a better person, lift my spirit, lift the spark, ignite the spark. Circle exhibition, I think I just called it Circles. Again, it was Archie offered me a show for the more decorative stuff, which was big chalk drawings, some prints, some charcoal drawings, a whole mixture of stuff. And I wasn't confident again about taking over the whole space in the Hack. This was when Archie was there. But that went quite good actually. I quite liked the idea of using two spaces, or using as much space as I could get my hands on. So that was good. But apparently the Harbour Arts phoned me up one day and says there was a local journalist saying to the Harbour Arts, "I believe you've got a show of circles on." And they went, "Yes." And whoever it was, this journalist says, "My daughter can draw circles, so can she get an exhibition?" Ha. And they phoned me up and I said, "Tell the guy I'll meet him and I'll talk to him about the circles." But he never showed up. And I asked Roy Fitzsimmons, who was a Newtown artist at one point who carved the dragon, and I says, "Do you fancy sharing the space?" I thought it would make a better show and it would take away some of my lack of confidence. Because Roy had been to art school. Roy worked in the shipyards and went to art school in his 40s, and I learnt a lot from Roy about looking. He was a sculptor, so Roy and I put on the show, and it worked really good. And the two of them were Roy and Billy Brothers, and his relative were winding me up about filming it at the time, David Bailey and all this kind of stuff. But now they're glad they've got a copy of the film. It was a big camera with a big tape in it, And I was trying to do that and put nails in the wall and all that kind of stuff and do my job, my 95 or whatever. Starting the drawings, or before I'd done that group of drawings, I was drinking, but it allowed me to unwind a wee bit, to get these drawings the way I wanted them to be, or the way I hoped them to be. And again, that was another time when I was in tears drawing these circles. I thought I'd discovered the circle, or I'd seen it for the first time. The image of this never-ending shape, it really struck a chord with me. And I'd done a whole batch of these charcoal drawings and some paintings as well. So I showed them the photographs to Archie Carswell. He was a volunteer in the Harbour Arts Centre. It was run with volunteers at that time, and Archie was in charge of the exhibitions. And I showed him the photographs, and he went, "Do you want a show?" Okay. But I couldn't frame anything, so everything went up either with blue tack and drawing pins, and I thought something will get damaged, but I wasn't bothering too much, and nothing got damaged through the whole show, not one thing. I was expecting a bit of graffiti on something, but nothing, nothing was stolen or anything. It was interesting, but I wasn't very confident as in putting something so minimal as, I don't know how many there were, 15 or 20 drawings. I just a circle, and prints and stuff like that. So I decided to put stuff in the Magnum on the same day of the opening for the circles. Good crowd. You don't want to show you this, Dave, do you?
You sound like a good turnout. I don't recognise any of the people apart from Anne and John Paul and yourself and the paintings.
Anyway, so we had the circles in the Harbour Arts, and I got a room in the Magnum through the management to put up big coloured chalk drawings, figurative things. So that way people could see the circles, they could get a free ticket to go up to the Magnum and get in, an entrance free, and look at the exhibition up there. And I had a couple of people that managed that. That was only up for the preview. That helped, took the pressure off me a wee bit, that nobody's going to like just the circles, so I could see that I do this as well, I do these other things, and that was just a lack of confidence on my part. One day I went into the Harbour Arts, and it was Marie Blackwood. She says to me, "There's a guy keeps coming in here every day at the same time, drunk. He's in the pub next door, whatever, Cross Keys or whatever it is, next door at the Harbour Arts. And he would come in and he would sit in a chair opposite one of your circle drawings and just sit there and stare at it. And then after a while he'd nod off. And one day he was in, and they introduced me to him, and he was like, 'That's brilliant.' He kept going. He was drinking. He wasn't drunk. And he's going, 'That's brilliant.' And I said, 'What is he like about it?' And he couldn't say. And he was coming in every day for a week or two or whatever. I don't really know how long. And he would sit in the same chair opposite the same drawing. And eventually some days he would just nod off, and then he would go away again. And it was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I wish I'd nowadays I would have recorded them and got him to talk and all that. Then I didn't have the equipment or anything like that. I just had to be in the moment with him. But that was, it's like getting Gypsy Watkins and that show, and then getting this wee guy coming in. Total. And I thought, okay, a circle drawing has triggered something off in this guy. You know, what is it? You know. Other exhibitions was the Buddhist Centre, was the circles again. My sister had died, and I was meditating and coming off alcohol, took an interest in Buddhism. I went there every Tuesday for a year, and my whole day would be going to Glasgow, buying a CD. My detox person was really good, and he suggested I should treat myself. Once a week, treat yourself. She says it doesn't need to be expensive. So I did that. So I'd go and buy a CD, music magazine, art magazine, go and get something to eat, and then go to the Buddhist Centre every Tuesday and come back about 10:30, 11 at night. And I learned how to meditate for about a year. But the interesting thing at the end of that year, or over the year, because I was meditating in here as well, in the flat, for 2 hours. In the Buddhist Centre, it's about an hour, and you get a break and all that. And I was just greedy for more and more meditation. And I kind of realised that I might have an addictive personality. That I just wanted to meditate, and everything was starting to. So I packed it in the meditation. Because when I was cycling. When I was hill walking, and so on, doing photography. That was like. So I thought I suddenly became aware, because of the meditation, that I wanted to do longer. Just sit all day and meditate. Most I could do is about 2.5 hours. That's quite long. And I thought, nah, this isn't right. This isn't what I should be getting out of this. So I stopped it. So that was quite an interesting wee insight to myself. But I enjoyed getting up. I enjoyed the trip, because that was a struggle for me using public transport. I'm very claustrophobic, and I hadn't used trains or buses for 3-4 years. Didn't drive, used the bike. If you've already got something like claustrophobia or whatever it is, 9 times out of 10 the alcohol can amplify it and make it bigger, exaggerate it. So when you do go on a bus, you get panic attacks, you sweat and you want off now. and so I never used public transport for about 3 years. So that was me sitting waiting in my train coming in to go to Glasgow every Tuesday and dreading getting on the train. And then when you get on the train, it's quiet, oh thank God. So it was all pushing myself to get better, to get healthier, if you like, physically and mentally and spiritually, and it was good. I did it, I'm still doing it to a degree, but I'm doing it in a different way. Don't meditate anymore, but doing the artwork is the same sort of stuff. It goes back to that, you lose yourself when you're doing a drawing. If you're lucky, you lose, but you don't do it for that. You don't do it. You just hope that comes up, and your subconscious kicks in. We've all done this when we're kids. I think most of us have, when we're wee kids, and you're in your family house or whatever, and it's a winter's night or whatever, and you want to do a wee drawing, and you get your wee book, and you're down on the carpet, probably on your belly, doing this drawing. You want to do a wee drawing, and you're aware of all the sounds that's in the house, the TV, people getting in and out, and all the rest of it. And as you're doing your wee drawing, you're that engrossed, the sounds disappear. Your parents, the TV, whatever, they get further away, and you get, the room almost disappears, and it's just you and this piece of drawing. You get so engrossed in it. And most of us, well, with me anyway, I remember kind of finishing a wee drawing or a doodle or whatever it might be, and then you start to come back into the awareness of the room, and the sounds all come back, and the TV and all the rest of it, and then you start to run round and show, look what I've done. But at the time, nothing's there. It's just you and that piece of paper and whatever you're drawing, and everything just vanishes. So that's bordering on meditation, and I don't know what else you would call it, but it's very therapeutic. That you're basically getting time out for the busyness of your house or what it is as a kid, and the noise, and you lose yourself in this drawing. And again, if you find the world a difficult place, then you draw your own world. You make your own world without harming anybody else, and you can do that. There's no, a lot of people, some people stick to rules, techniques, and all this kind of stuff. Like I don't. For me, there's no rules as long as you're not harming anybody or anything. There's just no rules. I can sing my song any way I want. I've nobody wants to listen to it, fine. I'll make that sound on colour or dye or bleach or whatever. So it's combined with the colour and the shapes that you're putting together that make up a sound. Now, I can't prove it, but that's what I believe. And it's trying to get back to that state when we're a wee kid on the carpet doing that drawing, and you lose yourself in what you're doing. And that's what you still try to get back to even now. I think the depression's helped me. And I've heard a lot of people saying it, if you could take the depression away, would you want it to go? I don't think so. Because I think when you're depressed, as painful as it can be, it's a physical pain as well as a mental pain. There's an element of truth there. When you're happy and everything's hunky-dory, you miss out on, there's a poor person, or there's not another one of these killings, or whatever is going on in the world, or your own life, or whatever. So when you're happy, you detach yourself. But when you're depressed, you take it on board, what's coming at the TV, what's happening in your street, your neighbourhood, or whatever, or your family, or anything, and you take it on board and you internalise it. So it's a truth. I think there's an element of truth in it that lets you see the world as it is. It's not always hunky-dory and great. It's a difficult place. I mean, we're on this ball spinning in space. What's that about? It's bizarre. When you stop and think about it. But we're all caught up with daily chores or whatever it is, and jobs or whatever, sports, and we forget that we're on this floating world. It's spinning in the middle. Everybody thinks that space is way out there. No, it's here. It's all around us, and it's nuts. It's pretty, but a lot of people don't think about that. They just think you're here to do a job and you get an education and you get money and you get a house and you do all the things that we're all supposed to do, and you think, no, there's more to this, So I'm hoping that all the things that I've taken into my subconscious is coming out in the paintings, be it bits of style that I'm using or copying or whatever, and we all copy. Everything we've done we've copied, even when we learn how to speak, we're copying from our parents or whatever. So a lot can regurgitate from me back onto the artwork, and when I finish and I go, whoa, where did that come from? I started off with one idea, and if I always compare it to kind of improvising. I like the idea of improvising in music. I've used music as a kind of parallel. You start off with a basic tune and then you improvise and you're in the moment, and basically that's you tapping into your subconscious, I think, and you'll bring out stuff that you wouldn't normally get to, and that's singing your song.
My name's Susan Bradbury, and I came to Scotland in 1980 as the new town artist to Irvine in Ayrshire, and that's where Hugh Loney is based. The way we met Hugh Loney was that he approached the Harbour Arts Centre in Irvine asking for an exhibition at the time when my husband Paul Lucky was the gallery director there, and he liked Hugh's work, he liked what Hugh was doing, and he offered him an exhibition. And this is one of the works from the exhibition. We really liked it. It's full of life, it's full of joy, it's full of energy, and I've been living with it for 30 years now, and I still enjoy it as much as I did in the beginning. It's called Let's Dance. Hugh told us that when he first painted it, Let's Dance was a song that was very popular at the time, and he listened to it again and again and again while he was doing the painting, which incidentally is on a tablecloth. If you see the back of it, it's checkered, and that's because at the time he didn't have any money for canvas or stretchers or anything like that. So it's on a tablecloth. but it doesn't stop it being enjoyable. And quite often when people come in the kitchen, they're taken by it and they look at it and ask about it, and then they dance, which is, it's wonderful that people come in your kitchen, see you painting and dance. I think that's absolutely wonderful effect that it has. This is the second piece of Hugh's work that we've got, and it's one I'm very, very fond of. It's in the bedroom, as you can see. I lie in the bed here and I stare at this painting for hours on end. I particularly enjoy if I wake up in the winter when it's still dark, and then the painting has no colour, it's just monochrome, and as the sun rises, it gradually the colours come. The blues always come first, and this sort of colour here always comes last. And this will be in monochrome, it'll just be shades of grey, and then as it gets light, the colour gradually appears, and I really enjoy that. It's got lots of Hugh's regular symbols, so birds. I'm very fond of birds, and these are symbolic, very simple birds, but also the moon and the stars and the ladder. The ladder is a symbol that Hugh uses regularly and comes back to, but possibly the image he comes back to most often is the moon, because he associates his name Loney with the moon, with maybe Luna or lunatic, and he's attached to the moon. One of his exhibitions was named for the moon, from that wee nursery rhyme.
I Know the Moon Knows Me was the title of the exhibition 8 years ago in the Harbour Arts. And I got the title, my mum used to, it was a wee poem or a wee nursery rhyme. My mum used to say to us at night time, I know the moon knows me, God bless the moon, God bless me. And I didn't know anything about it. And I was putting this exhibition on where I took over the whole place. I'd been in, Joel Everton was the manager of the Harbour Arts, and she was asking me for about 10 years to put a show on, and I kept saying no. And then I decided, 3 people asked me in the one day when I was going to put a show on, and I took that as a sign. So I went in and I said to Jo, can I get a show? And she sat behind her desk, she went, what do you want? I says, can I get the whole place? She went, you've got it. I said, normally you get a show for a month. I says, can I get it for 3 months? She went, you've got it. I says, can I get the theatre for the opening night? She went, you've got it. In front of all the staff, everything I asked for, she went, it's yours. And she went, what changed your mind? And I told her. So I decided just to call everything that was going into the show under I Know the Moon. Everything was called I Know the Moon Knows Me. And I spoke to John Paul, my son, about using that as a title, and he went, that's great. So it took us 3, 4, 5 days to put a lot of the stuff up, and I dedicated the exhibition to Billy and Ina Ligate, my second parents, if you like. I looked upon them as that, and he introduced me to the art of William Blake and occult and various other things, so he expanded a lot in my thinking.
I thought you were a temperamental artist, and then when you went, right, that's it. I went, God, he's thrown it all out.
So I dedicated the exhibition to them, and as I'm walking around the corner, she's singing at the bottom of the Trinity Church, dressed like that, with the purple and these stones, and I thought, I was about to walk on, because it was starting to, it's back to that, the music was resonating and I was getting emotional, and I thought, no, video it, you've got your camera on you. So I did the 2 songs that she sung, and I was in tears. Literally, I was holding the camera, and a wee guy came out, a wee guy standing next to me, and he says she's singing Puccini or whatever, and I was going, I know. And he says they're all laughing at her in the Delta, in the pub, because of the way she's dressed. And I went, I know. But I didn't want to engage with him, I just wanted, you know, and I got it, and I spoke to her, and she gave me a wee stone that she was giving her. Whatever people put money in, you get a wee stone and she touches you. And I was really moved by that, because the human touch that's quite a magic thing, you know. Total strangers. Wow. That was something special for me. That I found out later, my sister found out her name, or somebody found out her name was Gypsy Watkins. And she does artwork as well, I believe, and she's changed her style and all that. But I wish I'd fill in more, but I was too much of a wreck with those two songs, and I walked through the mall to go to my opening after that with tears running, you know, and I was trembling. I was so, the idea that Billy and I are not getting to see the show, and I've dedicated it to them, and then you get this in the street. It's a one-off, just the timing, you know. But the most recent one, which was in 2011, where I took over the whole gallery in the Harbour Arts, I hadn't shown anything for 10 years. So I had 10 years worth of stuff that hadn't been seen. And getting the run of the whole gallery was just excellent for me. And I must mention John Gray here. John Gray's been behind me as well as Paul and Sue. And John's been brilliant and encouraging me in many, many ways with the art and hanging the work. We've been working there to 2 and 3 in the morning, and I've given John, in a couple of occasions that he's helped me out, free rein to do what he wants and hanging the show, because sometimes I can be too close to the work and it needs somebody with a different eye, and John's got a good eye for display and hanging and stuff like that, so I left everything up to him. But John Gray's been brilliant support over the years. And Loudon Temple, the show I had in the Venel Gallery as well, Loudon managed to get that into the Glasgow Herald. He was a journalist that went into the Harbour Arts Centre, and John Gray had produced a pile of photographs that I had handed in, and Loudon and his wife says, "Oh, who's this guy?" And they came up to my flat and they got a piece in the Irvine Herald. And the exhibition on the beach was like, I don't need a gallery, I can put stuff on the beach, because I'd made all these things on the beach over, I don't know, 6, 8, 9 years or whatever. Not continued, just on and off, whatever, and photographed them, and I thought, I've got these photographs, that's great, don't know what to do with them. And suddenly I saw the concrete pipes for the first time. Ding! That's a wall, that's an exhibition space. And I put it to John Gray, and John, let's go for it. He says, I'll give you a hand. And it was flour and water paste, and we pasted 101 A3. It cost, I forget what it cost me, about 80 quid, and just photocopying and whatever it cost, I don't know. And John and a few other people wanted me to put a blog or something, I put stuff on the internet, let people know about it, but I didn't want that. There was no name as to who did these. It just, you go on the beach and you come across this, and most people had mobile phones so they could photograph it. A lot of galleries are not allowed to photograph, so I liked the idea of that. And if you like, it was a 24-hour gallery, you could go down there in the middle of the night with your torch and see the show was still running. So after about 3 weeks, the whole thing started to break up with the wind and the rain, and all these A3 photographs, 101 of them, all disintegrated back into the sea again, back into the elements again. So all these shows have been excellent. But one of the other shows that I had, which wasn't in a gallery at all, was in, I think it was twice or 3 times, I sat in the streets of Glasgow. Most street artists do things like football players, Marilyn Monroe, Laurel and Hardy, that kind of stuff. I decided to take my own art at that time. And it was these pieces, last pieces of paper, masking tape, and a biscuit tin. And I went away through the week before, looked at a few locations, and then when I was ready, I went away through in the train, came off the train, didn't get eye contact with anybody, and just went to my location and taped down, masking tape, my drawings onto the street. And that was brilliant, partly because you get a lot of people in the street that you wouldn't normally get in, getting into art galleries. They might be intimidated or whatever, and I just sat there drawing. And I had loads of people, young kids and their parents, and one guy came up, he actually walked past quite fast, and he came back and he says to me, is that your own work? And I says, aye. And he says, normally I don't give money to you guys, but that's really brave. And he put £1 in my tin. I got about £20 that day, and all those occasions, roughly about that, which paid for my train ticket, got me my dinner, and I bought a book out at Borders. And I spoke to loads of people, and I would recommend that for anybody to sit in the streets of Glasgow with their work.
Well, this is another one of Hugh's works, a charcoal drawing, and again, it's opposite my bed. I live with it, and I enjoy it very, very much. I imagine that these people are dancers, and I know Hugh does have a whole series of dancers. In fact, this is a charcoal drawing that my husband Paul, my late husband I should say, my husband Paul bought for my birthday one year. But this is another one which I think Hugh has still got in his attic, in his loft. He's got, I don't know what in the loft, but I know it's full of paintings and drawings, including that one. And they're part of a series. There are a lot. Some are a single figure, some are 2 figures, some are figures with masks. Some are quite sizable groups of figures, and this group of 4, I really like it. And I don't know if Hugh thinks of anything in particular, any story, but I have my own story. I just imagine these are a group of dancers. They're about to dance, they're just going to dance, and they're sort of having a group hug before they start. And I always imagine that. They're just getting ready, they're preparing themselves for a performance, and they're just sort of gearing up for it, and that's what I always think of. But I like the way the figures are drawn. I like the looseness of it, and the suggestion of faces, and the general feel of friendliness and warmth that's in the figures. You've said that you'd like me to speak about Hugh the man as well as Hugh the artist, so I thought I might say something about this. It's not exactly Hugh's drawing, but it's Hugh's work in a completely different way. When my husband was very ill, he had one of these dreadful degenerative diseases, and he first lost the use of his feet and legs, and then later on he lost the use of his hands, and worse was to come. But he wanted, my husband Paul, he was an artist, a stained glass artist, and he wanted to continue to do creative work even after he was dreadfully ill. So he asked me to ask Hugh if he would help him. I was doing so much for Paul, helping him dress, shaving and all different things. Paul didn't want to ask any more of me, and he said, would I please ask Hugh, who by this point had been our friend for maybe 25 years, would I ask Hugh if he would help Paul with his artwork, because Paul was struggling. And Hugh came every week for a few weeks and spent a couple of hours in the studio with Paul, helping him to paint and do different things. And one of the things they did when Paul was really failing was they just coloured sheets of paper, and this blue-green one, very rich colours, is one. And Hugh would help Paul. He would actually have to put the brush into his hand, and sometimes even more than that, mix the paint for him. But they would work together, and Paul would say what he wanted, and Hugh would help him achieve that. And then Paul was taken into hospital when he was getting worse, and Hugh carried on once a week going into hospital and taking things with him, and he took sketchbooks and a big packet of felt tip pens, because Paul's stuck in a hospital bed, so there's a limit to what he could do. And this is the very last drawing that Paul ever made, but Hugh was there guiding him and helping him and holding his arm up so that Paul could actually manage the pens. And it was only a long time afterwards, when I spoke to Hugh about it, that I realised actually how much we had asked. We were desperate. We asked for help where we thought we could get it, and we didn't realise what a big ask it was. I felt a little bit guilty actually, because it took so much out of Hugh. But as I say, you said you wanted to know about the man as well as the artist, and it was a great thing he did for Paul. It really was important and wonderfully kind and generous.
wee story once, a mate of mine used to come up and fix my car. He was a big truck driver, Andy, stayed in Bidsley Hill, and on top of our TV we had a corner piece of a concrete paving stone that I stuck some stones and a piece of wood, and I painted it with gloss paint to stick it all together and hit it up. And Andy came in and he used to, what's that? And I said, a piece of art I made. He couldn't get it, didn't get it. He's going, aye, you know, he's wasted, and he couldn't get it. But he kept coming up to fix the car, and he was in and out the house for a couple of years. And every time he'd come in, he would always go over to the TV. Sometimes, the beginning, he would slag me off, wind me up, joke, have a joke. But after a while, he would just go over to it and lift it and put it back down again, not say anything. And one day, I says to him, you change your mind about that? I says, do you want it? He went, you're kidding. I thought he was winding me up. I says, no, you can have it. Oh, wait till I show Mary. He suddenly took to this piece that prior, it's just a piece of concrete paving stone with some things stuck to it with gloss paint. But somehow he took to it. And I says, why do you like it? I don't know. Brilliant. It's yours, take it. And he took it. I don't know how Mary reacted, but he took it. And I thought, how does it, what's happened to him? I don't know what happened to him. And he doesn't know. And I'm not going to even attempt to put, well, I'm talking about the event, but I don't know what happened to him. I don't know what changed him. But I was like giving him a bag of money. It was like, he was delighted. He was like a wee kid get down the road with this piece of art, you know. Strange. I don't know how it works. I really don't know how it works. And probably he was more surprised than the rest of us when he got it home. Wonder if he still got it. Aye, it was good to have the Harbour Arts here, you know, local, and just get people, for them to come to me and say, do you want a show? But where I did start off from was before I used the Harbour Arts, because I wasn't confident to use any gallery. It seemed too scary. I would use all the local libraries. And it started off in Dreghorn. I went up and asked, because they would have wee displays above the bookcases, they would be spaced in the wall. And I says, can I put some stuff in? I put wee things on the wall, and that was fine. And then I would move stuff to other libraries, you know, Cowan Library and wherever, you know, and Dreghorn Library, and that gave me a bit of confidence with getting like public reaction, if you like, of me getting them out there. 9 times out of 10 it was usually just the staff that would give, you know, I really like that, and that would be about it.
I've got these pieces of pottery collected off Irving Beach. I don't know if you can see that detail, but they've all got a sort of crackle pattern on them. I don't know if you can see that. And this one's got maybe a stronger pattern, maybe that'll show better. These are collected off Irving Beach, and Hugh walks there at least once a week, sometimes more than that, and collects all sorts of things. You've seen the sculptures he makes out of trees and branches, and he collects bits of pottery with this sort of crackle glaze, and he uses those as the basis for drawings, and that's how he's done that big one that you saw on the stairs just now. So he's got, I think, a circular piece somewhat like this, and several other pieces, more maybe like this, and sometimes they go into a circular design, and sometimes they make wing shapes, and so he uses all sorts of things off the beach. So it might be a whole tree, or it might be just a tiny piece of pottery, or a dead bird, or anything that he finds on the beach he'll use for his art. A fantastic photograph that I really like is once when he found a ladder, and he just took the ladder and stood it up in the sea. So it's going from the water to nowhere, but it's a great photograph. And there's others where he's found a bed, some cracking pictures of chairs he's found on the beach. Whatever he finds on the beach, one way or the other, he can make art out of it. Hugh very often finds timber on the beach that's been washed up from the sea, and he especially likes trunks or branches that have got filaments that are maybe roots or twigs attached, And if he finds a good trunk with roots, he'll invert it and put it upside down and try and put it somewhere where there's still water around it at the edge of the tide, and he'll photograph it with its own reflection. And then he'll maybe go back and visit it the next day and the next day and see what the tide's done. Sometimes they're still standing, sometimes people are paying attention to them, sometimes they've been washed over by the tide, maybe moved a long way, maybe disappeared. So he's doing this regularly. He's walking on the beach and looking for timbers that have been washed up. He likes things, as he puts it, that have been washed up at his feet, and that's what he'll use for his art. And I was very taken with this idea, particularly the idea of the trees being resurrected, and I wrote a little poem about it. An artist plants an inverted tree on Irvine Beach. The tree says, "He resurrects me. Roots reach for the sky. He upturns me. Twigs tremble for the sea. He turns me, rotates me, returns me from timber till I return to tree. He resurrects." The tree sings, the sand sings, the sea sings, the sun sets. The tide turns and turns again, retreats, returns and turns again. The resurrected one turns, returns and turns again, retreats, returns and rests.
The way I've learned to work is not to go, for me, not to go chasing something until I hunt it down, that's what I want and I'm going to get it, whatever. For me it's just about waiting to see what comes to me. There's a lot of things I would still like to do, and I'll probably not get around to doing them.